It's so cold. So this is one of the first frosts, and I thought I'd do a video on how we winterized the Caravan without doing anything that you couldn't easily undo. There's about five or six things that we've done that I think are worth doing. One of them's pretty good actually. It surprised me how much of a difference that made, and it was one of the easier and cheaper things to do. So I'm gonna take you around the Caravan. I'm gonna show you what we've done, and it has made a pretty big difference. We're off grid, so our situation here is a little bit different because we're having to generate our own electricity. Our water supply, by the way, you know that trick I did, I don't know if you can see, but it's all frosty and frozen down there. The top of the, can you see, piece of ice. So it froze last night, and this comes from the stream, and it's flowing water. So that trick that we did by, you'll see it in the other video, connecting the pipe back to the river and just leaving it on all the time, that really does work. Okay, so what have we got? Because caravans vary from what I understand. I'm no expert on them especially, but ours was already winterized, right? And I don't know what they meant by that. And I don't know what an unwinterized caravan would be, because wow, if you had it any less winterized than this one, it'd be unbearable. But there's insulation in the floor, so when I've been underneath there is insulation in between the beams on the floor. Doesn't look like there's very much. I haven't checked how much it is, but it might be 100 millimeters, it might be less than that. And the walls have insulation in, but they are so thin that I'd be surprised if there was 50 millimeters, and I imagine there'd be 25 millimeters. I haven't checked the roof, I don't know what that is, but the people who sold it to us claimed it has been winterized as caravans are usually winterized. So I think that's probably what they mean. But by normal buildings, God, it's cold. By normal building standards, it's not. From my point of view, it's definitely not winterized, ready for winter. If you're going to live in it, perhaps if you stayed in it during the day, if it was an office or something, then fine. But if you're living in this thing, it's not good enough. It's a Willowy Salsa Eco. The guy who sold it to us told us that the Eco means you choose how you heat it, which I think means we didn't put any heating in. So I'll show you that inside, and I think we'll go over number one, which is the skirt. It's the most work that we have done to winterize it, and it's a solid board foam, Celotex. It's 50 millimeters, I think. We've wrapped the whole bottom of it in this insulation. It's not stuck to the Caravan, it's just you can see the video on it, we made a whole video on doing this. It's screwed to the timber frame that supports the bottom, and it was just my idea to keep the skirt underneath enclosed so that the air temperature under there doesn't fluctuate so much, because the insulation underneath the Caravan is not very much, and to insulate the floor even further seemed like it was quite complicated. So I thought that if we insulated the whole bottom like this, and then we've heated it, which I'll show you in a minute, that might be number two, it was my theory that the whole bottom would be a little bit warmer and not make the insulation underneath the Caravan have to do quite so much work. So number one is the insulated skirt, which I feel like it has made a good difference. But I did all this before it got really cold, so oh, the water's overflowing. Okay, so number two is the diesel heater, which is located under there. The exhaust goes in and it comes out. It comes out over there. It's located just there. And the reason I've located it under the Caravan is because I wanted the residual heat from the motor to give a little bit of heat to the under Caravan area, the insulation skirt around the edge, it was my theory that that heater would give off a little bit of heat and just keep the underneath of the Caravan a little bit warmer than the outside air. And that does seem to be the case. The diesel heater is really, really good. We found it's been really, really good. It puts out a ton of heat. Costs £150 to buy. It's been quite difficult. It's been a challenging heater to deal with, but that's because we got a cheap Chinese diesel heater, and we've had quite a few errors with it. So I would recommend the diesel heaters because they are very good. Puts out a ton of heat. Like, it's very warm. It's very warm heat. It's far better than everything else we've got in the Caravan, but there are problems. So I'd probably say go and buy a decent one, unless you want to save the money and are willing to deal with the issues. I have fixed them, but they are a pain. Right, we'll have a look inside now. You know, it is actually comfortable in here. Like, we've winterized it, or done the tips we're going to go over in this video, but it is actually quite comfortable in here, and yeah, I'll show you why. So the diesel heater that we've put in, we've got the controller up here. It's 14 degrees in here at the moment, 15 degrees in here at the moment, and that feels fine during the day. In the evening we make it a bit warmer. And then these are the diesel heater outlets. So I've got one there, I've got one there, and they are in a sort of Y configuration in here, which comes through from the underneath just there. And yeah, we put that on. The way I've angled the nozzles is that one comes this way, one goes that way. It's centrally located. So that, and also the hole I used in the basement of the boiler is actually an existing hole. So we haven't got holes in the floor that I've had to seal. And it's in a cupboard, so if there's any air leakage, that's fine. So that makes a big difference. The other heater that we've got is a gas heater. It's in here. And that puts out quite a lot of heat, but it's hot, and it's hot only in this side of the Caravan. So we had a problem with trying to get heat down that way. I've got a little fan, which I blew across the heater to try and push the air down the other end, but it just wasn't pushing it far enough. So that's good. We've got gas fire there. We've got gas stove, and we've got gas water heater, which is okay. The flow is pretty low, so you can't have a lot of hot water flowing through it at once, but it's fine. The other heating that we've got in here that sort of came with the Caravan are these 350 watt electric heaters, which we've got 3 of them, so that's just over 1 kilowatts worth of electric heating. And I've added a timer to these because, as I've said, we're off grid. So if we run those, and they only operate on a switch, like they're on or off, or they did before I put that in. But we're off grid. We generate our power from solar, and we've got a generator which is too loud to go on at night. So we can't afford power-wise to have that running all night. So I have put that switch on so that it comes on for a few hours early morning and just picks the temperature of his bedroom up. So it's a bit more comfortable for him. But those are going to be more ideal soon, because we're having a micro hydro turbine that we're putting in the next couple of weeks. There'll be a video, or several videos on that. But right now we don't have the power, but when we have hydro, we're going to want to use up that energy, because you don't want the batteries overcharging. So they will be quite a good solution soon. But the timers are just more useful because as they were, it was on or off, and you had to get up to switch it off, which wasn't great. So that I think it's a water timer actually that we got, like for an immersion tank or something. So yeah, there, and it was only £5 a switch, so they were pretty good. Next point, these curtains. So it came with, some of them had drawer blinds and some of them had curtains. But when you're sitting here, because we've got quite a lot of glass, especially on this side, and it is double glazed. Perhaps that's what they mean by winterized. It's got double glazing, but it's thin double glazing, and it's not up to standards of an actual house. So we got these thermal curtains, which are a bit heavier, and they made a good amount of difference. But we found that I think you probably just have to attack this heat problem from all angles. So we've replaced all of these with thermal curtains, and we've put my boy's bedroom, got a heavier version. One thing I would say is it's quite important to get it bigger than the window, because the one in our bedroom comes to about here, and there's kind of quite a big gap behind it, which means that you've got like a shield on the front, but the cold can still come around the window. So yeah, I'd say that's worth thinking about. So the best one I'll go over in a minute. That one's really that one's made quite a big difference. But the other thing, whilst we're here, is probably just due diligence. Don't know if you could say that for this, but the temperature here drops off at about 3 or 4 o'clock. So condensation is your enemy here. You've probably noticed a few of the windows have got drips on them. So we open the windows in the morning, ventilate it as best as we can. My wife goes around and wipes with a microfiber towel to take the condensation off. So we have to vent it during the day so that we can get rid of all of that. But closing the windows bang on the time that it starts to get cold is quite important. And then getting the heat on at the right time and then trying to keep it in. So part of the battle here, I think, is just being switched on with it and trying to preserve the heat as best you can. Obviously, all the pipes outside need to be wrapped in insulation, because those will all burst. We've heard stories of neighbours around here who had all their pipes burst underneath the caravan. We even had somebody who said the toilet water in the bottom of the bowl froze. So maybe that's what it's like living in one that's not winterized. But yeah, wrap everything for frost and freezing. And I think that's sort of half the battle, isn't it? Okay, so the last one, which made a really big difference, and I didn't think it would. I thought it'd be on the same level as the curtains, is a rear door curtain. And I mean, this seems revolutionary to me. Perhaps you guys are like, well, duh. But when you stood here by this, because it's a glass door, you could really feel the heat. Well, the heat going out, but you'd feel the cold from it. So I had a look on Amazon, and I found this sort of, it's not quilted, but it's insulated, and it's this kind of ripstop fabric, which means that if it did get mouldy, which it doesn't, by the way, you could just wipe it down. So that was a winner, because it meant that if it did get mucky, it could be wiped off. And it just hangs on the back. It was £100, so it's quite expensive for a single curtain, but this has made a huge difference. I'm just going to hang it up so you can see it. Right, so it's blocked all the light out now, but it came with a Velcro strip, which we found didn't it stuck to the Velcro all right, but the Velcro didn't stick to the wall well enough. So it came with these hooks, which you just hook it over. It's slightly wider than the door, and at the bottom it lips down, which they didn't make one short enough for us, but actually it means you can fold it down like that and then just sort of kick it in to the door. But this has made a huge difference. I think you could get them for all of the windows, but A, that would be very expensive, and B, I said about the damp. I think if you were hanging those things, it would be so nice and warm in here, you never want to remove them, and then you'd end up with lots of condensation behind the windows. And also, we have to take that off, fold it up, and store it somewhere every day. So if you did that on all the windows, you'd either leave them all up, or you'd have to store them all somewhere. So perhaps on this big window, it might be worth doing, because you could hang it up the same way. But we found that's good enough with the solutions that we've found. None of them are too novel, but I just thought I'd share the collection of what we've done, and we are living in this, and we're in the Highlands of Scotland. It's pretty cold, and it's comfortable. It's comfortable. You get used to it. I think if you just arrived and just lived in this, you know, from a normal heated, lovely warm house, then yeah, you'd be like, wow, this is cold. But it takes about 2 weeks to acclimatise to a different temperature, I find. And then I'd say we find it comfortable. We've got a 2-year-old boy. He's fine in here. We don't have too many problems with him finding it too cold. He sleeps well. So there we go. 5 or 6 things that we've done to winterise our caravan. Hope you find that of some value. The rest of our stuff is, the rest of our videos is about sort of off-gridness. So what we're doing, refurbishing the barn over there, micro-hydro as I mentioned. We filmed all the bits here, so all of the heater, install the skirt, didn't do the curtains and stuff. But yeah, so if you're interested in that kind of stuff, come join us. Be nice to have you there with us. We'll see you in the next one.